I think that's great. Yeah, get started.
Cool,
The
cool.
scene is yours, guys. Go for it.
Cool. Well, the first step we put on the process is get prepared, and I think that's one of the critical ones actually. Whether it's your first brew or your 10th or of your 100th brew, homebrew, I think it's always good to not forget to get prepared. It's actually good to understand what you're doing before you're actually doing it, so you don't make a disaster out of that experience. And there's plenty. I mean, you probably see on your screen the picture we put, and it's a bookshelf full of brewing literature, and I think I would definitely suggest that you get yourself into those. And there's also a lot of very good websites, and maybe we can share links also that will get you into the world of brewing. And by also understanding what you're doing, I mean, you will also make sure that you don't make mistakes. So David, what books would you actually recommend for that?
I remember some that was very good when I started was Mastering Homebrew from Randy Mosher.
Yeah.
I read it quite intensively. Was pretty good. But you have more. You have How to Brew from John Palmer. It's kind of must read if you are starting into home brewing. There's another one that's Brewer's Bible. I don't remember who's the author, but I read it as well. Was pretty good. Gives you a nice introduction to this, and can get you prepared before you invest money in kettles that you don't know how to use. So for like you can see in the screen, get prepped. So get prepped is not just by buying the material and the raw material, but to get knowledge. I think is important before you start.
Yeah, I think also there's a book for every step of the learning curve. I think I mean whether you learn the basics, or whether you want to get involved into some more specific stuff, you've got everything online and in books. So get yourself prepared. Definitely, I think also, and that's one of the best advice I think I can give. It's for me, brewing is more of an anticipation game. Like when you're doing something, always think of what you need to do next, so you don't like mess it up. So it's easy to say, "Oh, I've done this, and I'm waiting now for that step to be over," and then you forget to prepare the next step. So always think ahead. Always get enough hot water next to you. That's always important, also. Um, yeah, and I would also add maybe that remember that all the values you have in the recipe right there are very much guidelines. I think it's better to understand what you're doing than just willing to stick to those numbers. I mean, you must be ready to adapt whatever happens. It's also part of process. It's being able to respond to whatever happens during the brew. A brew day can be quite intensive. So yeah, I think the better prepared you are. I mean, the more prepared you are, the best it is. Definitely.
Fully agree. So Xavi just shared the recipe. I don't know if you want to get started with the process, and then we go through the recipe, Antoine. Perhaps just sorry, Xavi, if you go back, just to there was a lot of question about the targets in the boil. Just to make already, just to answer the question already. When you see boil, it was there. Add 24 liters. It should be target. So we were we were just discussing about changing it, but there you go.
Yeah, indeed. And again, if you understand the process, it wouldn't have make no sense to add 24 liters at that step. So every numbers we give there are for a 20 liters batch, but that's 20 liters in the fermenter, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yep.
But just to make clear, so we are. This is just a suggestion. So every brew kit is different than other brew kits. So this is the recipe that we scale down for 20 liters, but my 20 liters can be different than your 20 liters, and ratios will be different from brew kit from brew kit. So it's very important that you know you know your brew kit and you know it better than us. So if you get prepped, you will adjust this recipe according to your home brew kit.
Yeah, I think it's always wise to check your calculations ahead. We say here 4 kilos of malt for 20 liters. That's calculated with a given yield and extract that we can reach. Not everyone can reach that extract, so just make sure you correct it for your own system. And if it's the first time you brew, but then there's no other way than just trying and correct.
Yeah,
later
for
down the road.
For those that use, for example, Beersmiths, which is a software that very common software for home brewing and for calculations, these recipes scale down for 88% efficiency. Normally, for home brewing systems, you will have something like 75, 80. So again, it's about you to get adjust. If you don't want to spend money in the Beersmiths, which is fair, you have other calculators online that you can use to build your recipe and to adjust your equipment. For example, brewersfriend.com, you have most of the calculators there. It's for free. They do an awesome job for all of the homebrewing community. Just give them a look.
Yeah, indeed. And worst case scenario, you have a more like 78% of extraction instead of 88. It's not too bad. I mean, it won't mess it up. You will just read it in the gravity towards the end, and there will be not much you can do by then, but it won't change again, it stays true to the spirit of the beer, and maybe next time you brew it, you can correct that. I think also the idea was here that we, for every step that we go through, we stop for a second for Q&As, and but we'll see how it goes. If we don't have any questions, we just keep going. That's a flow chart of the process. So the idea is to go step by step and just go a little bit more into details for the Delta.
Yeah, correct.
Cool. Brewing is cleaning, and I think that's together with get prepared. Just make very sure that the equipment you're using is clean. I think as brewers, we spend most of our time cleaning everything and make sure everything is where it needs to be, right, David?
Yes. Yeah, sometimes I don't know if I'm a cleaning lady that brews or if I'm a brewer that cleans.
So, but there's something we can say here. It's the difference between the hot block and cold block. The cleanliness level is not the same at every step of the process.
Yeah, exactly. Normally, what we define hot phase and cold phase. Like hot phase is the one that you need to be less careful, but you should clean as you go. So while the process is going, you should keep things clean. But it's not super crucial that will affect the flavor of the beer. For that, I will say is more related to the cold phase. So after hot temperatures. Once you go to cold temperatures for fermentation, then you need to be extra careful, make sure everything is sanitized. Just check your own brew shop. They will have the proper sanitizers for the cold stage. It's very important that you have this in your mind, and you always remember to keep as clean and sanitized as possible, especially in the cold phase.
Yeah, so that means from mashing in to boil, I mean, it needs to be clean. You shouldn't be able to see anything, and that's good enough. But as soon as boiling is over, then it's not seeing dirt is not enough. It needs to be sanitized. It needs to be sterilized if you want it to be properly clean, and all the way to the bottle. Actually, the bottles needs to be extra clean and sterilized as well. Otherwise, there's a risk of having some wild yeast or bacteria or whatever that can actually develop into the beer and completely waste it. So cleaning, super crucial. And then on we go to next step, which is actually